10 signs of a toxic person. Have you ever spent time with someone and felt completely tired afterward? Maybe they are your friend, family member, coworker, partner, or someone you see every day. At first, you may think, maybe I am just having a bad day. But over time, you start noticing a pattern. Every conversation feels stressful. Every problem somehow becomes your fault. You begin doubting yourself, feeling guilty, or walking on eggshells around them. This could be a sign that you are dealing with a toxic person. Toxic people are not always easy to recognize. They do not always shout, insult, or act obviously cruel. Sometimes they can be charming, friendly, and kind when it benefits them. But behind the scenes, their behavior may slowly damage your confidence, peace, and emotional well-being. The good news is that once you understand the warning signs, you can protect yourself. Here are 10 signs of a toxic person that you should never ignore. 1. They always make everything about themselves. One of the clearest signs of a toxic person is that everything somehow becomes about them. You may start talking about a problem you are facing, but within minutes, the conversation changes to their life, their struggles, their success, or their pain. For example, imagine you tell someone, "I had a really difficult day at work." Instead of listening, they might say, "You think your day was difficult? You have no idea what I went through." Your feelings disappear from the conversation, and suddenly, you are listening to them again. Of course, everyone talks about themselves sometimes. That is normal. The problem happens when a person constantly needs to be the center of attention. If you achieve something, they may try to make their own achievement sound bigger. If you are sad, they may turn the conversation toward their own problems. If someone compliments you, they may quickly find a way to bring the attention back to themselves. Over time, this can become emotionally exhausting because your needs never seem important. Healthy relationships involve balance. Sometimes you listen and sometimes the other person listens to you. But a toxic person may only care about your life when it affects them. Ask yourself this question. When I spend time with this person, do I feel heard? If the answer is almost always no, that relationship may not be as healthy as you think. You deserve people who can celebrate your success without competing with you and listen to your pain without turning it into a competition. A real connection is not a one-person show. 2. They constantly criticize you. Another common sign of a toxic person is constant criticism. They may criticize the way you look, speak, work, dress, think, or make decisions. Sometimes they hide their criticism behind jokes. They might say, "Relax, I was only joking." But if the joke constantly makes you feel small, embarrassed, or insecure, it is not harmless. A toxic person may focus on your weaknesses while ignoring your strengths. You could do 10 things right, but they will only talk about the one mistake you made. For example, imagine you spend hours working on something important. Instead of saying, "Good job," they immediately say, "You should have done this better." Constructive advice is different from toxic criticism. A healthy person may point out a mistake while still respecting you. Their goal is to help you improve. A toxic person often criticizes you to make themselves feel superior. They may want you to doubt yourself. Why? Because people who feel insecure are easier to control. When you begin believing that you are not smart enough, talented enough, or good enough, you may start depending on the toxic person for approval. That creates an unhealthy emotional relationship. Pay attention to how you feel around someone. Do you feel encouraged? Or do you constantly feel like you are never good enough? You do not need people around you who destroy your confidence and then expect you to thank them for being honest. Honesty should help you grow, not make you feel worthless. The right people can tell you the truth without destroying your self-respect. 3. They never take responsibility for their actions. A toxic person often has a very difficult relationship with the words, "I was wrong." When something goes wrong, they look for someone else to blame. It may be their parents, their boss, their friends, their partner, their childhood, their bad luck, the government, anyone except themselves. For example, if they are late, it is because someone else made them late. If they lose their job, the boss was unfair. If a relationship ends, the other person was completely terrible. If they hurt you, somehow you made them do it. This pattern is called avoiding responsibility. Nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes. The difference is that emotionally mature people can admit when they are wrong. They can say, "I made a mistake." They can apologize. They can learn. A toxic person may do something hurtful and then immediately create excuses. Instead of saying, "I should not have spoken to you like that," they might say, "Well, you made me angry." This is dangerous because it makes you responsible for their behavior. But remember this, you are responsible for your own actions, and they are responsible for theirs. Someone feeling angry does not give them permission to disrespect, insult, manipulate, or hurt others. Watch what happens when you calmly tell a person that their behavior hurt you. Do they listen? Do they apologize? Or do they become defensive and blame you? If they never accept responsibility, the same problems may continue again and again. Without responsibility, there can be no real change. Or they manipulate your emotions. Toxic people are often skilled at emotional manipulation. They may know exactly what to say to make you feel guilty, confused, afraid, or responsible for their happiness. One common example is guilt. You may say no to something and they respond with words like, "After everything I have done for you, this is how you treat me?" Or, "If you really cared about me, you would do this." These statements are designed to make you feel bad for having a boundary. Another form of manipulation is playing the victim. Even when they hurt someone, they may change the story until they look like the innocent person. They may say, "Nobody understands me," or "Everyone is always against me." Of course, some people genuinely go through difficult situations. Being a victim of something real does not automatically make someone toxic. The warning sign is when a person repeatedly uses sadness, guilt, anger, or sympathy to control other people. Healthy relationships do not require emotional pressure. A healthy person can accept your answer, even when they do not like it. They may feel disappointed, but they do not punish you for saying no. A toxic person may make you feel guilty until you finally give them what they want. That is not love. That is not friendship. That is control. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to have your own opinion. You are allowed to make decisions without carrying another person's unnecessary guilt. The moment you start feeling like you must constantly manage someone else's emotions to keep the peace, pay attention. That may be a sign of emotional manipulation. 5. They create drama everywhere they go. Some people seem to have a new problem every single week. They are always fighting with someone. There is always an enemy. There is always a betrayal. There is always a crisis. And strangely, they are always in the middle of it. This can be another sign of a toxic person. Toxic people often create drama because drama gives them attention, control, or excitement. They may spread gossip. They may tell different stories to different people. They may create misunderstandings between friends. Then, they sit back and watch the conflict grow. For example, they may tell you, "Do not tell anyone," but your friend said something terrible about you. When you become upset and confront your friend, you may later discover that the story was exaggerated or completely false. A toxic person may also enjoy keeping people divided. If everyone is fighting with each other, they have more control over the situation. This does not mean that every person with problems is toxic. Life is difficult and everyone experiences conflict sometimes. The important question is whether there is a repeated pattern. Does this person constantly create problems and then act surprised when things become chaotic? Do you feel peaceful when they are around? Or do you always expect the next argument? Healthy relationships bring a sense of safety. You should not have to prepare yourself for emotional chaos every time you receive a message or see someone's name on your phone. Peace is valuable. Do not underestimate the importance of people who make your life calmer instead of more complicated. 6. They are jealous of your success. A good person can be happy when something good happens to you. A toxic person may smile in front of you but secretly feel upset by your success. They may minimize your achievements. They may say things like, "You were just lucky. That is not a big deal. Anyone could have done that." Or they may quickly change the subject. Sometimes, They may even remind you of your past mistakes when you are feeling proud. Imagine telling someone that you finally got a new job, passed an important exam, started a successful project, or reached a personal goal. Instead of celebrating with you, they immediately search for a negative side. How much are they paying you? That job probably will not last. Are you sure you can handle it? This behavior often comes from insecurity. Your success reminds them of what they have not achieved, and instead of working on themselves, they try to bring you down. Healthy people understand that another person's success does not reduce their own value. There is enough room for everyone to grow. You do not need friends who secretly compete with every good thing that happens to you. Pay attention to the people who are present during your difficult moments, but also pay attention to who can genuinely celebrate your happy moments. Some people can support you when you are struggling because they feel comfortable when you are below them. But when you start improving, earning more, becoming confident, or achieving your goals, their behavior changes. That is when their true feelings may become clear. Real friends do not feel threatened by your growth. They may challenge you, but they do not secretly hope that you fail. 7. They do not respect your boundaries. Boundaries are the limits you set to protect your time, energy, privacy, and emotional well-being. For example, you may say, "I do not want to talk about this. I cannot help you today. Please do not speak to me like that. I need some time alone." A healthy person may not always like your boundary, but they usually respect it. A toxic person often sees your boundary as a challenge. If you say no, they keep pushing. If you ask for space, they become angry. If you do not answer immediately, they accuse you of ignoring them. If you ask them to stop making jokes about something personal, they continue doing it. Then they may call you sensitive. This is a major warning sign. People who respect you understand that you are an individual. You have your own time, your own feelings, your own limits. You are not available 24 hours a day to solve their problems. You do not have to explain every decision you make. You do not have to give everyone access to your private life. A toxic person may make you feel guilty for creating boundaries because boundaries reduce their control. But setting a boundary does not make you rude. It does not make you selfish. It makes the relationship healthier. A simple test is to say no once, then watch their reaction. A respectful person may feel disappointed, but they will eventually accept your answer. A toxic person may pressure you, insult you, ignore you, threaten to leave, or make you feel guilty until you change your mind. That reaction tells you a lot. The people who truly care about you do not need to control every part of your life. 8. They only contact you when they need something. Have you ever noticed that someone only remembers you when they need help? Maybe they need money, a favor, advice, a ride, connection, your time, your skills, your emotional support. But when you need them, they suddenly disappear. This is another common sign of a toxic relationship. They may send a friendly message after weeks of silence. At first, you think, "It is nice that they remembered me." Then, after a few messages, they ask for something. Again and again. A healthy relationship has give and take. It does not have to be perfectly equal every single day. Sometimes one person needs more support than the other. But over time, there should be mutual care. Ask yourself, does this person ever contact me just to ask how I am? Do they remember important moments in my life? Do they support me when I need help? Or am I only useful when they need something? Toxic people often treat relationships like tools. They may be friendly when you are useful and distant when you are not. That can make you feel used and emotionally empty. You are allowed to stop being available for people who only appear when they need something. Helping others is a good thing. But constantly sacrificing yourself for someone who gives nothing back can slowly damage your emotional health. You do not have to earn love by being useful. The right people value you for who you are, not only for what you can do for them. 9. They spread negativity and bring down your energy. Another sign of a toxic person is constant negativity. They complain about everything. Nothing is ever good enough. Everyone is annoying. Every opportunity has a problem. Every plan will fail. Every dream is impossible. You may share an exciting idea, and they immediately tell you why it will not work. You may want to start a new project, apply for a job, learn a new skill, or improve your life. Instead of encouraging you, they say, "Why are you even trying? You will probably fail." People like you do not become successful. Sometimes, toxic negativity is not loud, can be quiet and repeated. Small negative comments can slowly enter your mind. First, you may ignore them, but after hearing the same negative message again and again, you may start believing it. That is why the people around you matter. Their attitude can influence your confidence, habits, and decisions. This does not mean you should only surround yourself with people who agree with everything you say. You need honest people. You need people who can point out risks and mistakes. But there is a difference between realistic advice and constant negativity. A healthy person may say, "This will be difficult, but here is how you can prepare." A toxic person may say, "Do not bother. You will fail anyway." One helps you grow. The other destroys your motivation. After spending time with someone, ask yourself how you usually feel. Do you feel motivated, calm, supported, or do you feel tired, anxious, insecure, and hopeless? Your emotional energy matters. You cannot always control negative people, but you can control how much access they have to your life. 10. They never respect your happiness or peace. The final sign is simple but powerful. A toxic person often does not respect your peace. When you are happy, they find a way to create doubt. When life is calm, they start a new argument. When you are moving forward, they bring you back to old problems. When you are trying to heal, they reopen emotional wounds. Some toxic people feel uncomfortable when they cannot control you. If you become confident, they may try to make you insecure. If you become independent, they may try to make you feel guilty. If you become successful, they may try to remind you of your failures. If you start creating distance, they may suddenly become extremely kind just long enough to pull you back into the same unhealthy pattern. This can be confusing because toxic relationships are not always bad every single day. There may be good moments. There may be apologies. There may be promises. There may even be moments when the person seems completely different. But real change is not about one good day. It is about consistent behavior over time. Anyone can say, "I will change." The real question is, do they actually change? Do they respect your boundaries? Do they take responsibility? Do they stop repeating the same harmful behavior? Or does the same cycle continue? Hurt, apology, promise, temporary change, then hurt again. You should not have to sacrifice your peace just to keep someone in your life. Sometimes, the most difficult thing is accepting that you cannot change another person. You can explain your feelings. You can communicate clearly. You can give them opportunities to improve. But you cannot force someone to become emotionally healthy. That is their responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect your own well-being. If someone constantly brings fear, stress, confusion, guilt, and pain into your life, it may be time to create distance. That does not always mean you need to hate them. It does not always mean you need a dramatic argument. Sometimes the healthiest decision is simply to reduce access. Share less, react less, expect less, protect your energy. Spend more time with people who respect you. Remember, identifying toxic behavior is not about labeling every imperfect person as toxic. Everyone has bad days. Everyone can make mistakes. Everyone can behave badly sometimes. The real warning sign is a repeated pattern of harmful behavior without responsibility, respect, or genuine effort to change. The people around you can influence how you see yourself. They can either help you grow or constantly make you doubt your value. So choose carefully who gets access to your time, your energy, and your mind. You do not need to prove your worth to people who constantly try to make you feel worthless. You do not need to keep explaining your boundaries to people who understand them but simply choose to ignore them. You do not need to stay in every relationship just because you have known someone for a long time. And most importantly, you do not need to feel guilty for protecting your peace. Sometimes walking away is not weakness. Sometimes saying no is not selfish. Sometimes creating distance is not rude. Sometimes Protecting yourself is the healthiest thing you can do, because your peace matters, your confidence matters, your emotional health matters, and the right people will not ask you to destroy yourself just to make them comfortable. The more you understand toxic behavior, the easier it becomes to recognize the patterns before they control your life. So watch actions, not just words. Pay attention to patterns, not just apologies. And never ignore the way someone repeatedly makes you feel. Because the right people may not be perfect, but they will not make you feel like peace, respect, and kindness are too much to ask for.